Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here, once again with another video on The Flash Season 3. So in the most recent episode of The Flash, that being episode 16, otherwise entitled Into the Speed Force, we saw Barry go, well, into the Speed Force to try and save Wally after he was trapped within there after swapping places with Savitar within the Speed Force prison that a future version of Barry had created for Savitar. While Barry was inside the Speed Force doing all of that and messing with some ghosts from the past, we saw Jesse Quick mourning or dealing with the temporary loss of Wally in another way. And that was by going after the individual who got him trapped inside the Speed Force in the first place, that of course being Savitar. The scene where Savitar's blade starts glowing and leads Jesse to a location where Savitar can present himself was pretty cool, and the fight scene that followed was pretty sick as well, as we saw Savitar absorb Jesse's lightning and then end up throwing his lightning at her, which was hinting at a power or ability of his from the comics. But it is actually the quick conversation that occurs between both Jesse and Savitar that has caught a lot of people's interest and is going to be the main topic of this video. We'll quickly watch the part that I'm talking about just so you understand what's going on.
Find a gap, find an opening, and go for it.
I have such plans for you in the future, Jesse Quick.
Oh, I have plans for you too. This is for Wally.
Yeah!
Now, if you didn't catch what Savitar said clearly, he said, "I have such plans for you in the future, Jesse Quick." And this is then when we see Jesse actually stab Savitar through a gap in his metal armor with his own blade thing, which he feels tremendous pain from. Which obviously then leads to everyone finding out that Savitar is most likely just a man underneath that big suit of armor. And seeing as Savitar said he had lived through all these events before, it does suggest that Savitar is either someone in Team Flash or at least someone closely connected to them. But we aren't talking about who is Savitar in this video right now. We are discussing what Savitar had plans for in regards to Jesse Quick in the future. Now, it obviously wasn't stated when these plans that Savitar had for Jesse would occur, but you would have to assume he was referencing at some point within the next 20 to 25 years at the max. I say this as you wouldn't think Savitar would have too much need for an aging or very old speedster. You would think he would want someone not necessarily right in the middle of their prime, but around that period. Jesse would still be under the age of 50 at that point, at the max, if Savitar got use of her at that max period. You sort of do get a hint at that earlier this season when Savitar encounters Jay Garrick. He really sees no use or purpose with him. He was actually going to kill Jay by the looks of it before they sucked him back into the Speed Force by, putting the Philosopher's Stone back in that box. Now, just because Savitar says I have plans for Jesse in the future doesn't necessarily mean, oh my god, it's 20 years in the future. It could be the next day. That technically is the future. So it's hard to predict when all of this will occur and when these plans were meant to happen. Now, from my knowledge, there really is only one major quote-unquote storyline, if you want to call it that, but it could be seen as a bit of a stretch by calling it a storyline. But anyway, there is one storyline in the comics involving Jesse interacting with Savitar in some way. Now, I might be wrong on that. Knowing my luck, I most likely am wrong, but let me know if there are any more than just the one that I'm thinking of in the comment section down below. This storyline that I am talking about from the comics between both Jesse Quick and Savitar involves Savitar actually disconnecting or severing her connection from the Speed Force. The complete story involves Jesse meeting Wally West, who was actually the Flash at the time, so Barry Allen's died at this point and Wally West has taken the mantle of the Flash, and she did this after doing some work for the JSA, who we know have been a part of Legends of Tomorrow this season. Now, Wally, in an attempt to make Bart Allen, yes, Bart Allen, aka Impulse, and another kid Flash, well, to make him take his job as a hero more seriously and possibly take the mantle of the Flash later on, he uses Jesse as his quote-unquote fake successor without her knowing at the time, which really does not please her, as you could imagine. Despite this sort of dick move by our friend Wally West, he gets into a bit of trouble, well, actually a decent amount of trouble, and actually has his life saved for the most part by Jesse Quick. Unfortunately for Jesse, she is actually injured due to this, and to be more specific, it is actually her leg, which was pretty badly injured, and as a speedster, your legs are pretty important when it comes to using your powers effectively. Thankfully, later on, she has her leg healed by Wally West, which sort of patches things up between the two, but not completely. But once again, unfortunately for Jessie Quick, she actually loses her speed due to, as I said earlier, Savitar severing her connection to the Speed Force, which is actually initially blamed on Wally West as he was using his powers in a different manner, which was believed to have done this to her. Jessie does end up getting her powers back after Wally and herself go to Savitar's lair. Now a battle actually does break out though between Savitar, and Jessie is actually protected from Savitar by her father in the comics, Johnny Quick, who ends up in the Speed Force, which is basically, being dead outside of the Speed Force. Now you might be wondering or thinking to yourself, or possibly even screaming at your screen right now, Pagey, why the hell did you even bother telling us all of this? Well, I did it as this story could be used on the show. Not exactly, of course, as it wouldn't line up with what Savitar said, but as we have seen on the show before, they may use parts of this story to line up with what Savitar had planned with Jessie in the future. And especially when you have stories from the comics where like a minor character is involved with a villain, if those like characters don't appear on a show, they sometimes do use that storyline, but just twist it so it fits the plot of the show, and I think they will do that. The two main things I could see being taken from this part with Jessie and Savitar in the comics and over to this season of The Flash are firstly Jessie saving Wally, which in turn leads to her losing her powers, so sort of like a twist on what happened in the comics, sort of like merging two events together. And the second point, someone dying while protecting Jessie. Now it obviously can't be Johnny Quick, seeing that he doesn't exist in the TV show's universe, so it's going to have to be someone else. Let's just go over the first point though. I believe Savitar's straight up plan in the future involves taking Jessie's speed. But seeing that Savitar is now in our present time, certain events may transpire which would cause him to make that move now. Like, it doesn't really help that Savitar keeps revealing stuff from the future. Like, keep your mouth shut, mate, if you want things to happen properly, but maybe he doesn't really care. Maybe he wants things to happen earlier than expected, but anyway. But why would he go for Jessie when he could simply go for Wally, who is much faster at this current stage? They have been building the Wally-Jessie relationship, and it would make sense if it all did come to a head with one, quote-unquote, taking a bullet for the other, and in this case, having their speed taken from them, or to put it in a more heroic term, sacrificing their speed. I honestly don't know what they could do with the Jessie character after this season, which could keep the character somewhat interesting in regards to her being a speedster. So it could be a good writing off point for her, similar to like Roy Harper on Arrow in season 3. She could just pop up every now and then on the show without her powers. You gotta remember, Jessie Quick is incredibly smart, so she could just be working at Star Labs on Earth 2 with her father. But for the immediate future, at least, it would be without her speed. Like, she could get it back later. As I said, that does happen in the comics. She gets it back. So they could do that, but they might want to wait a bit. Just maybe keep her without her speed, or maybe keep her without her speed forever and just keep her as this character that just comes over every now and then, depending on what they want to do, and I guess what the actress wants to do, whether she's willing to come back to the show every now and then. And the second point, as well as the last point in this video, involves someone sacrificing themselves for Jessie, similar to Johnny Quick in the comics. Now you might be wondering why Savitar would attack Jessie if she no longer had her powers. Well, that's exactly it. She doesn't have her powers. She can't pull a fast one on him. The person I see sacrificing themselves is actually H.R. Wells. He is a version of Jessie's dad, and he has been labelled as the coward of the season by not only Savitar, but other names by others on the show. I've loved HR on The Flash this season. I know some people don't like him necessarily, but I think he's really funny. I think he adds something different to the show. But it does seem like he could be a character to die. And I know people are most likely already writing in the comments that Savitar said HR lived, following up by calling him a coward. But that could have been Savitar's biggest mistake. HR now knows what is supposedly meant to happen, and now he can change that for the greater good, almost like Eddie Thorne in season 1. So instead of finishing off the coward, and almost like the joke of the team, he could end up being one of the heroes. Jessie and HR definitely have grown a pretty strong bond over the past couple of episodes, and even though he isn't actually her father, the sacrifice would still have the same effect as if he was her father. Not only to Jessie, but also to us, the audience. Like, especially if he got some final words and Jessie was over his body and stuff like that. Because I think it would be a good writing off point for HR, because I can't see them keeping him. I think they'll go for either like a new Harrison Wells, or maybe Earth 2 Harry will come back, something along those lines. But yeah, I think this would be the writing off point for HR Wells, and I think it'd be a really nice moment if he actually wasn't the coward of the season, and as I said, ended up being one of the heroes. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it would be very much appreciated if you could leave a like on the video just to show your support. Be sure to let me know in the comment section below, what do you think of all of this? Do you think any of this could happen? I really think the HR thing would be an awesome way to write off the character. It would be a nice thing if, as I said, he didn't end up being the coward of the season and actually ended up being one of the heroes. I think it would be a really nice moment on the show, while being a really sad moment on the show as well. But yeah, let me know what you think of all of this in the comment section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys, and goodbye.